Hello everyone, this is TracerPixel128, and today I'm going to show you my updated cell phone collection for April 26, 2018. I've been collecting cell phones and smartphones in general since roughly 2013 when I found these phones in a drawer somewhere. I'm going to start off with my small collection of basic / feature phones, or just old phones. The first one, this is the LG NV. This was my mom's second phone on Verizon. She got this back in 2007. This is what is referred to as a messaging phone, where it has a keyboard on it. I don't think my mom has used a keyboard. And it has a 2 megapixel camera on it. And of course it's a CDMA based phone, which Verizon uses CDMA. There's a charging port on the bottom. A micro SD card slot and a 2.5mm headphone jack. Just a camera button and the volume button. It has Bluetooth on it, which is kind of unusual for a phone of its age, and just the model number and the battery. Let's turn it on. Vcast. Haven't seen that name in years. I think that was a service that Verizon had that you had to pay for. Same with Get It Now. I'm gonna turn this on because the battery's about to die. And this is the second. Here's the second phone. This is a Samsung SCH A870 that we got back in 2007 around the same time that my mom got the Envy. I believe we had a second line on Verizon and this was at home. And of course I can't power it on because we misplaced the charger long ago. I guess the charger was lost long ago. This charging port looks like it's proprietary. I think that's a speaker button or a mute button, camera button, volume buttons, and then the 2.5mm headphone jack. Just a basic flip phone from the time. Sorry about my hair. Next up is the Blackberry 8830 World Edition. This was my dad's old work phone that he had about a decade ago. He got this about 10 years ago, back in 2008. Didn't have a camera on it. Volume buttons. And of course, it has mini USB, which is what Blackberry phones had at the time. 2.5mm headphone jack. Not sure what this button on the side is for. I think that might be for something. I'm not sure. It's the call and the answer and call buttons. Blackberry button, the back button, and then of course the famous trackball. Well, early Blackberry phones had a scroll wheel on the side, and of course the keyboard. And of course, I don't know where the battery is. Just power button, and I think it's a mute button. And there's the information on the back, and there's a micro SD card slot. This is the only phone in my collection that's on Alltel. And of course, Verizon bought out Alltel back in late 2008, and the services got switched over. That's what my dad had back then. Next phone. The LG NV2, my mom got this back in 2009. She upgraded from the original NV to this. Just your standard candy bar size phone from the time. It's a 2 megapixel camera. Same buttons on the side, and of course, unlike the previous NV, it has micro USB, which was becoming a standard at the time, with Android phones having that. It has a 1 gigabyte SD card that my mom got specifically for the NV. Here's the information. Let's turn it on. Some of these phones still work, by the way. And this phone's about to die. And of course it has the same micro SD card slot and 2.5mm headphone jack. Next up is, went a little out of order. Next up is the LG Accolade. This is what my dad temporarily used as his work phone. It's kind of like a place to put in a lanyard or wrist strap or one of those cell phone charms. Camera button. I think that might be a voice recorder button. Micro USB port, volume buttons, and of course the same headphone jack. It has a camera on it. Of course, it can't power on because the battery is dead. And lastly, here is the Microsoft Kin 2. This is the Kin 2. Slide out keyboard. This was my mom's last basic free phone that she had. Home button, power button, and volume buttons, camera button. I remember my mom told me that she got this just for the camera. I took the back cover off. I used to be able to take the back cover off. Here it is. It's manufactured by Sharp. Collaboration with Microsoft and Verizon. And of course, you probably know about the story how Microsoft put in like billions of dollars and 2 years of research on this thing after they bought out Danger, the people that were most famous for making the Sidekick line for T-Mobile. This is running a modified version of Windows Phone 7. It's the only Windows phone in my collection, and of course it can't power on because it's dead. But it was an okay phone, but it had issues. On up, here's my collection of Android phones. Starting with, here is the Motorola Droid. This is the second one my dad had. My dad originally got the Droid back in fall of 2010, around September or so. Even though the phone had already been a year old and the stuff like the Droid X had already been out. This phone is tiny compared to phones that we have today. Of course, it's an early Android phone, so it has a slide-out keyboard. What's notable about this is that it's the very first Android phone that was on Verizon. The G1, the very first Android phone ever made, or the first commercially released Android phone, was already a year old. Volume buttons and a physical camera button, that's a sign of the times right there. Although, with newer Samsung Galaxy phones that have a Bixby button, there are third-party apps to remap it so you can use it as a physical camera shutter button if you want to relive the old days. There's the power button on the top, reminiscent of iPhones, of course, because this was seen as an iPhone alternative. You've probably seen the famous I Don't commercial for this. There's the 3.5mm headphone jack. And on the side it has a micro USB port on the side. Some of the Droids had this, and there were some phones that had them on the top. I remember my uncle had like a really old Android phone. He's on Sprint, and he had one where the port was on the top. It's kind of weird. And here are the capacitive buttons: back, menu, home, and search. This phone was originally released in November 2009. I don't know what version it's currently running, probably Froyo. There's a 5-megapixel camera, and of course the earliest Android phones would say with Google on them. I believe they stopped doing that around 2010 or so. Here's the back cover. That's where you put in an SD card slot. Of course, why I don't see a SIM card slot is because Verizon didn't start using SIM cards until 2011 or so, or 2012, when 4G LTE came in. Of course, it's a CDMA based phone. Of course, you don't need to use that. Just a speaker. You know, and I remember watching some early reviews for this and some old reviews of this on YouTube, and the camera button was originally gold, but it has rubbed off since then, and the Motorola logo is kind of scratched up. This originally ran Android 2.0 Eclair, and that is the Droid. Can't go wrong with it. Next up is, this is also my dad's first Android phone. Next up is the Samsung Galaxy S3. This is my dad's second Android phone. This phone was originally released in the summer of 2012, and it originally shipped with Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich. Jelly Bean wasn't out yet when this phone was released, so around late spring, early summer was when this was released. It's in white. My dad kept this in a case all its life. Let me explain why it's in excellent shape. Here's my USB board. Of course, there is no slide out keyboard because they stopped doing that around 2011. Just headphone jack on the top and the camera. I remember some Disney Channel shows use the Galaxy S3 as a prop instead of iPhones. In case you didn't know, I don't even watch this channel anymore, but here's the information on the back. SCH I535, that's the Verizon version. Samsung Galaxy phones have different model numbers for different carriers, where they used to start with either SCH or SGH. Nowadays they start with SM, and then N for Note, G or S for the Galaxy S line, T for Tab, etc. This phone is rooted. It's running Android 4.0 Jelly Bean. No, wait, sorry, 4.3. 4.0 is ice cream sandwich, 4.3 Jelly Bean. I believe the last version that came out for this was Kit Kat. Look how thin this phone was. And one thing that's notable about this phone is that it was the first Samsung phone to come with S-Voice, which was their competitor to Siri. In some ways, S-Voice was better than Siri. It was smarter for one, and it sounded better too. I mean, I'm not looking at the old lady voice, but whatever. It's just something I wanted to point out. And then in March 2013, my mom finally got her first ever Android phone. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 2. This is the case that it came in, and don't judge about the Angry Bird sticker. I put that later on. And of course the screen is cracked. I'll tell this in another video. Anyways, let's boot it up. It's currently running Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, and battery's about to die. Yeah, it's about to die. It's at 18%. It's not rooted. I had customized it. I got rid of TouchWiz and replaced it with a third-party launcher. If you're wondering what that symbol is, that's for my gaming team, the server crash. Go check out my gaming channel, Havoc Byte. Shameless plug there. Power this off. While I wait for that phone to turn off, I'm going to show the second Galaxy Note 2. This is Galaxy Note 2 number 2. Verizon sent my mom this phone about 2 months after she broke her first one. And she used this phone temporarily for like a year, and it came with like a black plastic case that was like hard to get off. And of course there's an Ubuntu logo sticker on the back. I used this temporarily as my second phone. And speaking of Ubuntu, there's a new version out called 18.04 LTS Bionic Beaver. I might download it and try it out sometime. And of course it can't power on because it's dead. And then about a year after she got the replacement, she got the Samsung Galaxy Note 4. This was my mom's main phone from November 2014 until August 2016 when she got the ill-fated Galaxy Note 7. I could power it on, but it's having some issues. It's having some loop issues. That's what the S Pen looks like. Or you can actually replace the tip on it. Still got my SD card in there. It's back when they had switched the model numbers, where they had like V for Verizon, T for T-Mobile, A for AT&T, etc. Of course, this is the official S-View cover, which I remember whenever my mom would put this in her Jeep, from a distance it would look like a very flat ice cream sandwich. Even though this is currently running Marshmallow, it originally shipped with Android KitKat. You probably remember that video I did of me using S-Voice on this phone, and I still can't believe that video is my most viewed video of all the years I've been on YouTube, like 13,000 views. I mean, thank you for watching my video, but it wasn't very good to begin with. Anyways, and lastly, here is the Nexus 6. This was my dad's old phone that he used for a couple of years. My dad got this back in March 2015. It originally shipped with Android Lollipop. And of course, the case design is very similar to that in the Moto X. In fact, this phone was originally supposed to be in the Moto S, but it hastily became the Nexus 6. It's currently running Nougat. My dad currently has the Google Pixel 2 XL. And if you're wondering what phone my mom currently has, she has a Moto Z Force Droid. When she upgrades to the Galaxy Note 9 when it comes out, I'm going to take her Moto Z Force Droid. You know, if I save up some money, I can get that Alexa mod. Yeah, I don't want to set it up now. I'm going to shut it down. Probably use this as my second phone if I could. I mean, it's still in good shape because my dad's kept it in the case all its life. But the first one he had, he didn't keep it in a case. I think one of the corners got broke or something. I have no idea. Anyways, those are all the phones that I have in my collection. More videos will be coming soon, and more phones will be added to this collection. At least one phone's going to be added to the collection when my mom upgrades again later this year. Stay tuned.